Hi, everyone. My name is Shelley Nye, and this is my husband, Mark Nye.
Hi.
We're happy to know that many of you are watching and sharing what you're doing with others. We want to give a special thank you to Jeanette Walker and Sharon Simpson, who have held watch parties. That sounded like a lot of fun. Taking action and getting started can feel overwhelming. We hope you will take it in small enough chunks to keep it going and to make it fun. The prophet and president of our church, President Nelson, has said, "We can be inspired all day long about family history experiences that others have had, but we must actually do something to experience the joy ourselves." He continued, "I invite you to prayerfully consider what kind of sacrifice, preferably a sacrifice of time, you can make to do family history work. As you accept President Nelson's invitation, you will discover, gather, and connect your family. Additionally, blessings will flow to you and your family, like the river spoken of by Ezekiel. You will find healing for that which needs healing. In this session, Mark is going to show you the process of beginning to add your relatives, living and deceased, into Family Tree. When you first sign in, you will just see yourself. Your page and your tree will be blank, except for your own name. He will show you screen by screen how to add your parents and grandparents into the tree. He will use a real person to do this, but will protect the identity of the living. We hope you have seen the video that we uploaded yesterday that shows the concept of connecting yourself into the large worldwide family tree. Mark, would you like to share your screen?
Sure. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Well, as Shelley said, we're happy to be with you today, and I'm going to use a live example, a real example of a person brand new to Family Search, recently established an account, and now wants to add their family. The person I am representing is Mr. Wissing. You will see that as I sign in to my free account, I come to my person page in the upper left-hand side. You'll see my name, and then right below my name, you'll see that I'm living, and there is an identifier number established for me in the system. Right below that, you'll see a yellow band that indicates that all living people are confidential and held in a private space. The only one who can see a living person is the person who added them. So I'm the only one who can see myself. And then I'm reminded that, again, my living status is captured at the very bottom of the screen. Now, I'm interested in documenting my family tree because as I take a view of my fan chart or my family tree with me in the middle, those first two circles, half circles right above my name are representing my parents. Well, my parents are not in the tree, so it's blank. I'm hanging out there all by myself. So I want to add them. And what's motivating me right now is that my grandmother, my grandma Elaine, just recently passed away. And I want to be connected to her and build my family tree. That's what my motivation is today. So as we look at my person page, we saw at the very top vitals information and my identifier number. If I scroll down the screen, I'll come to the family members portion, and it has a left side and a right side. On the left side, I'm listed at the top of a couple relationship. I haven't added my wife yet or our children who are living, so that's spouses and children. On the right are parents and siblings. So this is where I would add my parents and then ultimately my siblings. So I'm going to press on Add Parent. As I do that, I come to a blank template that indicates that I'm going to add parents for myself. Here is where I will add some basic information about my father first. As I begin to type, of course, I will fill in the various fields going down the screen from my father's name, gender, status, whether he's living or deceased, and basic information that I know about. So I'm going to represent my father, Wissing, Mr. Wissing, as living, which he is. and I've entered a birth date and a birthplace. Notice that I have standardized those dates. What that means is I've put them in a format that will be recognized by Family Search and will allow for better searching of records. One way to know that you've standardized is you will see that little calendar icon next to the date and a location icon next to the state. It can be as simple as a year and a country, or it can be a specific date, day, month, year, and then a city, county, country, a state, country. Once I complete that, the next button will become blue. It'll highlight blue. That means I need to make sure I click on that in order to save it. So I will click next. When I do that, it recognizes that my father is living, wants to verify that I've entered my information correctly, and a reminder that living people are only seen by the person adding them. And then I will click Create Person. As I do that, it returns me back to my person page in the family members section. And you will see again what we saw before, Wissing, that's me, born in 1979, and I'm living. And on the right-hand side, you will now see that my father is added, Wissing, 1949, and he's living, and he has his own unique identifier number. The little arrow connecting Wissing on the left and Wissing on the right, that's me. On the left, I'm a father or husband. On the right, I'm a child. So I see myself in two family views. That way I make sure that, again, I've got myself connected to the right families. Now I want to add my mother who is living, so I'll click Add Spouse. And as I do so, I come back to the same template that we saw before. Now I'll enter my mother's last name, her maiden name. I want to add her maiden name, not her married name, which is Kellogg, female, living, and then I did the same with dates and places at the bottom for her birth date, again, because she's living, and want to make sure that I standardize those dates. I will then click Next. As before, I have a screen that returns to me confirming that she's living and that I want to create this person and my information is correct. I will click Create Person.
Mark, I want to make just one little quick note there on that page. If you go back to that other screen, as long as you're always talking about a living person, you'll see that blue box. It says you must create living members to connect you with your deceased ancestors. Every time you're dealing with a living person, it will remind you that living people are private.
Thank you, Shelley. So once I click Create, I'm returned again to my person page in the Family Members section. Again, I'm showing on the left and on the right. That's me as a husband and then as a child. But now you'll see both my father and my mother in the parents box, each with a unique identifier number. But I said before that I want to connect myself to my grandmother who is my dad's mom. Her married name, of course, is different than Wissing. And so now I want to add my dad's mom and dad, so my paternal grandparents. So I click on Wissing, that's Mr. Wissing, my dad, on the left, and that will bring up a little summary card, we call them, which basically shows me in a quick view his information. I can go to his person page instead of mine by either clicking on his name in blue at the upper right or on the person icon that is at the bottom of his summary card. When I do that, it places him on the left because he's now the husband or father married to Kellogg, and I'm listed as a child. And now his parent box is blank and we want to add his parents. So I'm going to click on Add Parents. So I'm now at my grandparents' generation. And I come now to this template which we saw before, where I enter my grandfather's full name, at least as much as I know. He's male, and I know he died. I don't remember the exact date. So when I come down to his death date, I know it was in February 2015. And so I'm just going to put that for now. and then also where he died. And so I'm going to click next after adding that information. Oh, let me go back there actually to call out that blue bar in the middle. It says your deceased ancestor may already be in family tree. So once I click next, Family Search will scan all the records in family tree to see if someone else already added my grandfather and I just connect with him. So I'll click next, and the message after the search says, no match found. Search was unable to find any possible matches. You may now create this person in family tree. So it shows me the information I entered, and I will click create person. As before, I'm returned now to my father's person page. He's on the upper left as the husband and father, with his wife and me as the child. And on the right, you will see his father now, but no grandmother, no mother or grandmother added. And he's again showing on the left and the right. I will click add spouse to add my grandmother. This is my grandmother that just passed away. I mentioned that to you at the beginning, my grandma Elaine. Her maiden name was Grotz, G-R-O-T-Z. And so that's what I want to put in the tree, not her married name. So Elaine K. Grotz, she's deceased, and I knew her birth date and where she was born, her death date and death place. You know, when we got together as family for her funeral, we talked about those details because we had to write an obituary and so forth. So I happen to know those specific dates from that experience. And so once I click next, Family Search will search the family tree to see if someone else has already added her before allowing me to add her. So I'll click next. And I'll get the same result that I did for my grandfather. There was no match found. So I may now create this person in family tree. I verify what I've typed in there and then click create person. So I've now gone back 2 generations. You'll see me at the bottom left, Wissing. I've added my parents, Mr. Wissing and Kellogg. And then I've added my father's parents on the right, Peter John Wissing and Elaine K. Grotz. Now, because I was prompted to this activity by the passing of my grandmother, I want to take occasion to add more information about my grandmother because it's fresh on my mind and we've been talking about it as a family. And so from my father's page, I can click on Elaine K. Grotz on the left in the circle, and that will prompt, again, a summary card to come up where I can click on her name at the top or the person icon at the bottom. My interest is to go to her person page. So as I come to her page, now she's listed as the wife and mother with my father, Mr. Wissing, listed as the child. And oh man, her parents are not in the tree either. So I think hard about who my great grandparents were. I talk to my dad and see if he remembers things, and it recalled to my mind some specifics about them, at least their names. So I'm going to click on Add Parent. It brings this same template that we've seen before. And you know, one of the things I remember about my great-grandpa, even though I had never met him, he had a German name. His first name was Bernhard. They used to call him Ben, but his real name was Bernhard. And my father reminded me, how do we spell it? So I put Bernhard Grotz in his name. I know he's deceased and he's a male. I don't know when he was born or when he died, but I do know his name. And so in order for Family Search to, really search to see if he's already in the tree, it also gives me an additional option at the very bottom to type in his wife's name. I could add a father, mother, but in this case, I know his wife's name. She was great-grandma Lena, and her maiden name was Rader, R-E-H-D-E-R. So I'm going to basically search family tree to see if Bernhard Grotz and his wife Lena are in the tree already. Otherwise, if they're not, as before, I will need to add them. So I'm going to click next. Now this time, success. It didn't come back with no matches found. It came back with a possible match. Bernhard Grotz, he has an ID number. He's in family tree. He was born in 1895. Boy, that's the same town my grandma was born in. So I look at his death date. That was, of course, way before I was born, so I didn't know that. And his wife is Carolyn Rader. Lena is often a nickname for Caroline. And so as I look at that, and then I go back and talk to my dad, yeah, that's my great grandparents. So instead of adding create person or clicking create person, I click add match. I want to connect to this family. When I click next, it comes back and asks me, do I want to add the couple or do I just want to add Bernhard Grotz? I'm going to select couple to add both of them to the tree because I know they're my great grandparents. But if by chance my grandmother was born to a second wife of Bernhard Grotz and not Caroline, then I could just add Bernhard Grotz and then add the second wife who would be my grandmother's mother. But in this case, I know that these are the correct parents, so I'm going to select couple. Now when I do that, see what happens to when I'm on Elaine Grotz's page, her person page. I come back to the family members section and look, somebody has already added her dad, her mom on the upper right, and all of her siblings. You'll notice that 3 of them died in infancy, and she was the last living of this family, died just a couple weeks ago. But now it connects her to her family. And completely fills out that tree. I was really pleased to see that someone, distant cousin or whoever, has already added my great grandparents and all of their children who would have been siblings to my grandma. I now want to add my own memories, of course, of my grandma, Elaine. And so I'm going to click or scroll up to the top of her person page. And you'll see a life sketch area, the vitals, where I've captured her birth and her death date. But I want to add her life sketch. As a family, we took some time to put together an obituary. And I want to pull out just a few sentences out of.
Wait, just before you do that, can I point out one thing here I think might be helpful?
Sure.
Is to notice right above life sketch, you'll see details. So we're on the details tab. You can see it's underlined there in green. Then there's life sketch, vitals, other information, and where we were right before was the family information. So that is one full page there of the details. Just wanted to kind of make a note of actually where we are in the computer.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley, for that clarification. So I want to add this short life sketch, and so I click on that add in the red circle. And then I'm basically able to type in that template form whatever I want to type, in terms of her life sketch. You'll see on the bottom half of the screen all of the text that I typed, but I can expand or collapse that section. So it's only a short portion, and then if somebody wants to read the whole thing, they can click on more. Since I'm the one that typed it, I have the option or rights to edit that. If I made any mistakes, I can always come back to that or add some more. So an opportunity to add a brief life sketch, which I did for my grandma Elaine. Now, if we look at the top of this page, we're again on Elaine K. Grotz page, my grandma's page. Shelley was just talking about the details tab, which we were on with vitals and the life sketch, etc. But I've now looked across that horizontal menu and clicked on memories. If I'm on that tab, I now have opportunity to upload photos, documents, stories, or audio. We've got a couple of lessons in the forthcoming weeks where we'll give you specific instructions on how to do each of those things in detail. But I just wanted to show you what I've done here in memory of my grandma. I first found a photograph, or actually we found it as a family because we needed to publish it with her obituary. And so if I click on the photo section or open it up, you'll see I've uploaded a picture of my grandma. And then I've also selected that picture to show in the circle next to her name when anyone opens up Family Search. Then I did additional digging through the little cardboard box that we had of some of my grandma's memorabilia. And I found a couple of other pictures. One, a picture of the high school that she graduated from in 1942. And also a picture of the cathedral in Grand Island, Nebraska, where she and her husband Peter were married in 1946. So you can see that I'm able to add photographs in memory of my grandmother and label them so people know exactly what they are. If I were to go further down the memories page, I'll come to the documents section. And here I uploaded a couple of documents. The first one on the right is her obituary. I just scanned a copy of that and uploaded it as a file to documents. And then on the left, I actually did a little digging and found some information about this grocery store, O.P. Skaggs, that she worked in the late 1940s. They've now changed their name. But I remember as a child going to the grocery store with my grandma. And this is where she used to work. And I clipped just a short, older advertisement for the store that would have been active in 1947 with a little bit of information about this grocery that, of course, I learned it recently closed. But I had some great memories with my grandmother going to that store. Then lastly, as we gathered together as a family to remember my grandmother and write the obituary and so forth, we talked a lot about the activities and interests that my grandma had. She was a very active Catholic, and she worked at the Catholic high school, in the library, in the office, and in the parish thrift store. We talked about the fact that she enjoyed playing cards, sewing, quilting, crafts, gardening, and spending time, of course, with us, the grandchildren, and then our children, great-grandchildren. As I said, she was an active Catholic and a member of the Blessed Sacrament Catholic Church, its Altar Society, and Christian Mothers. I actually sourced these pictures of the church and the high school from the internet, but I wanted to attach some pictures to bring that story to life. Kelly, do you want to explain the red box at the bottom?
Sure. I think this is a great way to add to a story because someone puts up there a picture, something they remember, they give a few facts, and right there in that red box, you can share what you know about this story. And so you might say, oh yeah, I remember such and such activity at the church that was so important to me and grandma was there. Or I remember driving by that high school and they had this activity and party where, grandma told me about the experience. And so you can comment right there, or you can actually create a new story. But it's a great way to build and to share one with another.
Thanks, Shelley. So I've documented several things for my grandmother, and I'm now returning back to my page. The way I do that, because I was actively on my grandmother's page, I go up to the top of the page, my grandmother's page, and right next to person, I've circled in black recents. And if I click on that, it gives me a drop-down menu and shows me the last 30 or 40 people that I've been on their page. And my name will be right at the top. You can see Wissing, 1979, living, with my ID number, and then a little pedigree icon. When I click on that, it will take me back to my fan chart. Remember, we looked at that at the very beginning, and I was the only one in the circle in the middle, and I had no information. Well, now let's see what my tree looks like. You will see me down in the bottom right-hand corner with my parents, which I added. I added my father's parents, Peter and Elaine. But then because I connected to some family members that others had already put in the family tree, I go back to my grandmother's parents, her grandparents, and even her great grandparents, all within a few minutes of my doing some active work on Family Search. I built a bridge between myself and my deceased ancestors, and now can connect with others who are doing that same work. You'll see I haven't entered my paternal grandfather's parents, Peter John Wissing, nor have I added information about my mom's parents. So I've still got some work to do, but it should be exciting as I continue to build my tree and connect to my ancestors. Shelley, back to you.
Hi. We hope you find these steps easy to follow to build a bridge to your ancestors in family tree. I'm reminded of the scripture in Exodus 20:12, which says, "Honor thy father and thy mother." I think we just saw a great example of Mr. Wissing honoring his heritage by remembering them and putting them in family tree. Our invitation to you is to get started if you have not already. Include your family, share with your family as you get underway. Our next session will explore the unique identity of each individual. Remember, we are happy to help. Mark and I are happy to encourage family history in any way that we can. If you want personal help, we answer this email personally, and the email address is broomallfhc@gmail.com. That's the center address, and we would love to answer your questions and share your experiences together. Thank you. We'll see you next session.
Bye.
Bye.